Ever wonder how different things might be if Uncle Sam traded in his stripes for a bit of hammer and sickle action? Picture this, it's the 1950s. The Cold War is heating up, and suddenly, America decides to take a left turn on the capitalist highway. Fasten your seatbelts for a wild ride through a different path. What if America went commie in the 20th century? As we explore a crazy twist in the timeline, all starting in 1955. Hold on to your hats, it's about to get interesting. But before we delve into how would America look like if it had become a communist nation in the 20th century, let us take a look at why things happened differently. As the dust settled after World War II, the United States found itself locked in a Cold War with the Soviet Union, a tense era marked by political, ideological, and economic rivalry. Fearful of the spread of communism, the US adopted a strategy of using diplomacy to promote democracy, viewing communism as a threat to free trade, elections, and individual freedoms, especially in the context of the escalating nuclear arms race. The stage for Cold War tensions was set in post-war Germany. The Allies, including the US, occupied West Germany and West Berlin, while the Soviet Union controlled East Germany and East Berlin. The once allied nations now faced the challenge of rebuilding war-torn Europe, leading to increasing discord. In June 1948, the Soviets heightened tensions by blocking the West's access to West Berlin, attempting to gain control of the entire city. In response, President Harry S. Truman initiated the Berlin Airlift, a colossal effort to drop food and supplies to West Berliners from the air. This daring move utilized aid as a diplomatic tool rather than resorting to military force, successfully keeping West Berlin supplied for nearly a year. The Soviets, unwilling to risk military confrontation, eventually backed down in May 1949, reopening the roads to the west. However, the vulnerability of Berlin persisted. 13 years later, the city once again became the epicenter of Cold War tensions when the Soviets erected the Berlin Wall overnight, physically dividing the city in half. Amidst the global struggle against communism, US diplomacy faced challenges on the home front during the Civil Rights Movement. While promoting democracy worldwide, the US grappled with the glaring contradiction of racial discrimination and segregation within its own borders. This internal struggle forced American politicians to confront the paradox of championed democracy while millions of citizens experienced a stark contrast in the form of racial injustice. But if you think things would have been a lot different had America taken a different path, wait before you hear everything about communism. In a different world where communism triumphed in America, people worry it might resemble the Soviet Union. They fear being forced into certain lifestyles, regimented in dress and diet, and coerced to praise leaders. Concerns include inflation, bureaucratic tyranny, and a loss of freedom. However, the path to communism in America would likely be less drastic than in Russia. The revolution wouldn't be led by billionaires, but could gain support from the struggling middle and working classes. The American government under communism might take control of major industries, allowing citizens to observe how well nationalization works. This approach could lead to a smoother transition compared to the Russian experience. The Soviet system could bring remarkable advancements, cutting production costs and increasing farmers' purchasing power. The international interventions might not pose a threat, and communism could spread to other countries. The Western Hemisphere might unify into the Soviet United States, with Pan-Americanism becoming a reality. Roosevelt's New Deal and visionary leadership during World War II played pivotal roles in shaping America's destiny. But what if fate had taken a different turn during the Democratic National Convention in 1944? Had the expected nominee, Henry Wallace, not been replaced by Harry S. Truman due to a fire hazard, the course of history might have been altered. Wallace, known for his softer approach and trust in the Soviets, would have faced the immense responsibility of guiding the United States in the post-war era. President Wallace might have chosen a path of isolationism, refusing to intervene in Europe as Truman did. The consequences of such a decision would ripple across the globe. Without American aid under the Marshall Plan, Western Europe, already on the brink of collapse, might have succumbed to socialist governments. The weakened British Empire, unable to resist the spread of communism, would have faced internal struggles. Winston Churchill's attempts to prevent the surge of communism would likely have faltered, leading to a wave of socialist governments in Europe. The absence of American influence in the Arab world would have altered the dynamics, with no establishment of Israel and a different trajectory for the region. The Arab Spring and the Syrian Civil War, products of American interventions, might not have occurred. As communism spread unchecked, the United States might have become more isolationist and paranoid. The global balance of power would shift towards the USSR, raising questions about the rise of global jihadism. Without CIA interventions, would radical ideologies have gained the same momentum? In the communist America, the Soviet Union remains closer to Leninist principles. Without the pressures of catching up to the West, leaders like Khrushchev might never have taken the reins, avoiding events like the Cuban Missile Crisis. East Germany could have thrived under more mature Soviet leadership, potentially surpassing the prosperity of the West. Another worth mentioning change would have been in the space race. In this timeline, the communists might have ultimately triumphed in the space race. In the early days, the Soviet Union led with things like Sputnik, and it took a while for the US to catch up. Now, imagine a place where the Soviets kept investing in space, not bothered by what people voted for. While the US dropped moon missions, the communists pushed forward. In this red world, leaders made big space decisions, maybe even punishing those who disagreed. Fast forward to 2017, and Earth's rules would be totally different. The Berlin Wall might fall in 1991, but Germany would go communist. Progress might be slower without the push from the US. Think lower income, no tech hubs like Bangalore. But there could be better education and healthcare. The communists might even have a moon base, showing their strong love for space. In this idea of fairness, there's a catch: no human rights. International moves wouldn't be about democracy, but toppling rich people. Central planning, not free trade, would control the economy. Everyone might be equal, but also maybe not so free. As the Soviet world unfolds, lots of rules and delays, red tape, become common. Equality sounds nice, but some comrades might be more equal than others. The red world, shaped by communism, makes us think about what could have been and how things might turn out differently in history. Imagine a place where space dreams and social realities clash in a complex dance of power and ideology. A decade ago, the term socialism carried negative connotations in American politics, confined to obscure discussions in niche publications. However, recent years have witnessed a shift, as socialist ideas have entered mainstream political discourse through various channels. Figures promoting these ideas have gained prominence, with discussions around socialism becoming more prevalent in the lead-up to national elections. A significant aspect of this shift is reflected in changing public opinion, particularly within the Democratic Party. Surveys suggest that more people now express favorable views of socialist ideas compared to traditional capitalist notions. Some advocates for models inspired by other countries, emphasizing organized markets, comprehensive welfare systems, and increased public participation in economic matters. Others focus on expanding democratic decision-making processes and pushing for more equitable ownership structures within workplaces. Key themes in these discussions include addressing historical injustices, creating more inclusive economic systems, and exploring ways to ensure widespread participation in decision-making. The emphasis on social and economic equality, combined with a desire to mitigate systemic issues, is central to these evolving discussions. The conversation also extends to practical steps and policy measures, ranging from social insurance programs to the transformation of labor markets and the reconsideration of ownership structures. These proposals reflect a desire for tangible changes that align with evolving societal values. That was it from our side. See you next time.